Welcome back from the break. You're still watching Drink From My Cup with me, Justin, your host. Our guest today is Charles Kabogoza, that many know as Chris from the local series Deception. We continue with his story.
There's a world in which you sink in immediately. You don't even ask what has happened. You're trying to understand, okay, now he's murdered. Does that mean he's dead? Like, yes. Does that mean he's not going to come back? You know, digesting the death of a parent is the most, it's difficult. It's a very difficult thing. It is. So I looked at them and they're like, it's all over news. And I'm like, are you sure it's my dad you're talking about? They tried to control us because we became unruly and almost violent. We became unruly and it was no more. As in, it's not possible. It's not possible. Who has done this? I want to get them. I want to kill them also. Who has done this? Why? Why have they done this to him? Why him anyway? You know, this guy loved everybody I ever set my... I don't remember a trace of enmity between my dad and anybody. Not even a trace. Not even a day did I ever see my dad cursing. Nothing. In fact, it was harder to own us than anybody that ever lived around us. So that was difficult to digest. They took us from Budo, and that's when we started hearing. The journey from Budo to home, my dad's house is, I think I went into a certain virtual world where nothing seems to make sense. And when we reached home, it's open, so many cars, everyone is weeping, everyone is, God, he was so healthy. He was so full of life. So full of life that I knew I was going to really grow old with my father. And to tell me that his life has just been cut short, just taken away, robbed. It's, I don't know. Nobody should ever go through that. Nobody deserves to do that. Nobody deserves to give so much pain to another person to that extent, you know.
So who drove you home? Was it a relative, a teacher?
You know, I don't even have the slightest memory. I don't even remember. Did they bring us home? Did they drive us? How did they? I don't have. Because the next thing I knew was from Mr. Kagwa's house. The next thing we are arriving home and people are weeping. The entire community is paralyzed.
Where was your dad's home?
It's fortunate, it's just a few blocks from my house. Yeah, just a few blocks from my house. It's so much happened. And the people who do this too, take away innocent lives.
So what was the situation when you got home? How was your mother? How was everybody?
Everything was different. Everything was different. Everyone was different. Everyone looked strange. The way people spoke was strange. The things that people were saying was strange. It's like everyone was suspecting the other. Which because the accusations were strange, you know. And everything changed. It was not the loving home that I knew. It wasn't the home full of laughter that I knew. it had become a campsite of evil. You know, there was blood on every wall. There was blood. Up to today, I don't want to walk into my father's house. I actually don't. I don't. I don't.
When they shot your father, was he inside the house, in the compound, outside? There were conflicting reports. Exactly how did that happen?
No, he woke up, walked into the farm as usual, and said goodbye, his everything daily, and he drove off. Outside the gate, these border riders start following him, and when they followed him, approximately 300 meters from home, they stopped him as usual. He stopped, and they took out a gun.
So what do you mean by they stopped him as usual? What was usual about his stopping?
As in, they usually stop. You know, this was a people's person. Katinga, it's like somebody's bringing. That time, Baba was even a chairman of LC3 or something of that sort. He was doing some of those things. Some even stopped him, Sabakuntu Alako. Then there were not so many cars here and what. So from what I'm told, that they stopped him, he stopped. They get out, and the man pulls out a gun, started shooting and shooting and shooting. He, out of fear, but the bullets had gotten into him. He started the car, he drove so fast, drove next to one of his favorite friends. He was called Mr. Mzee Kunsa. He told Kunsa nti munange bankubye amasasi ne emutte mabega mulimu sente zijemu. These guys had come for his life because there was money in that car. He was with a certain man who used to act as our painter. He was called Mubiru, who actually also ran and gave his own. You know, it's a very disturbing story. So when the last person I think he spoke to in his conscious was Kunsa, he drove for 500 meters and then started losing. He started losing conscious. Then he started driving off the road into a banana plantation. By the time Kunsa comes, he still can recognize. He spoke to him, Banku Yamasasi. Na ye muno mulimu motoka, please. Mulimu sente, zijemu. There was 11 million shillings in the car behind. I think it was for the business. He got the bag, like a true friend. They got him out of a car, of his pickup, and they put him into these coasters that do the roads. And because that's the closest form of ambulance that was available, they took him so fast to, what hospital is that? Was it Mengo? And before, no sooner had they arrived, they tried to do some procedures. He had lost so much blood, and the bullets had shattered his liver, his...
From what you managed to gather, how many bullets?
Around between 5 to 8 bullets. Yes. But each had hit all vital organs.
It was close range.
Yeah, it was close range. And you know, that's why sometimes I feel so terrible. Because according to what we know, is that they apprehended the killers. And it just ended there. It just ended there. No justice, no nothing. Not as far as this family is concerned.
Today, do you know any of the murderers by name or by identification?
Yes, I do, because there's one guy, they used to call him, we used to work on the farm. He was called Manueli. He's the one who coordinated with the murderers.
Was the painter in the car probably part of the plot?
As much as I'm told that he was, you know. But the so-called Manueli man, he was actually in prison for like 5 years and then he was released. And he's working scot-free. I don't know. Because He was last seen around here. Then he moved scot-free. He's the one who coordinated, because they tried to trail my dad for approximately, I think, a week. They were giving him prank calls at night, and he was one who was coordinating. At one night, I understand they called him that the petrol station has caught fire, Mzee Duko J, because they would always try to Ndoza, trying to get him here. He's like, no. And that gentleman was coordinating these movements.
Did that Manueli person reveal who he was working for? Because definitely a Shamba person, a Shamba man, Shamba boy, didn't have interest killing your father. He was working for somebody.
Yes, because they apprehended those guys. According to literature that came out, intelligence briefings that came out in papers then, they apprehended, he actually spilled down their names, and they arrested them around Nakulabi. Actually, this is the time when this Operation Wembley started. They arrested these gentlemen in Nakulabi. The last I heard, the person who was giving me a briefing on my dad's case now was, may his soul rest in peace. Remember Brian Bukenya? Brian was handling that case from the court martial. And his one was telling him, can you believe your case is still on? And they're still talking about, but the way we were speaking, they're taking around circles because it was stopping at some very influential people. And because they're so influential, they had to keep the story going around in what? In circles.
Was Brian handling the case as a friend or counsel representing the family?
No, he wasn't representing the family. Brian had enrolled into the army. And because of that, he ended up at the court martial. Yet he was my best friend. So, of course, when he heard my father's name during those court...
One of the judges.
I think he's one of the people who were in that process. Okay. And he started giving me those updates. Sketchy, because I wasn't interested in that story anyway. I wouldn't pay a lot of attention.
So you're not interested in people being brought to book?
Because I don't believe in vengeance, first and foremost. Secondly, if I bring them to book, so what? What will it do to me?
It's justice.
Justice. You see, sometimes when those such idiots with such hearts, whilst they know that you're after their flesh, they'll come after you and they will actually kill you.
Yeah, and jail may not change them.
It never.
So when they come
yes, yeah, they just kick you off, you know. They just kick you off.
People's hearts that not even jail can change.
Thank you.
There are people that just have to be reserved for God.
And
come and they'll meet him. And
just
deal with them first.
You see, we started getting all their names, but actually, really, and you see, I don't know. That has destroyed my father's legacy. My father's blood is painted all over. No matter how much you try to whitewash that tragedy, the blood just keeps coming out of that paint and it stays on top. You see. We see it every day. We see it every day. It haunts us each and every day.
We'll have more from Chris after the break. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go away.